Welcome back to Rapture. This is our side quest for BARF for the month of February 2019. We are talking about BioShock 2, plus the Minerva's Den DLC. I am Chad Michael Innes, host of Respawn Aimfire, the kick-ass irreverent gaming podcast. Across the country, we have Holden in Rhode Island. Say hello, Holden.
Hello.
And then in the central time zone somewhere, we have Ryan. Say hi, Ryan.
Hello, everybody. How you doing, gentlemen?
We are doing well, I can
great.
speak for myself. I'll speak for Holden, too. I am his power of attorney. We're both great.
I also just said that, but thanks for reading my mind.
It's okay. I was talking louder, and I have full control over editing, and I can make you sound like nothing. So, you guys might know Ryan from every episode since we reached out to Kinda Funny as the contributor of Ryan's subscriber interrogatives, which actually, now that I think of it, kind of sounds like Fontaine Futuristics or Sinclair Solutions. Ryan subscriber interrogatives.
Hey, it would have worked a little better if you used the Silo Sword, you had the SS, the Fontaine Futuristics.
Yeah.
All right. Silos.
It's a little long,
We're open to rewrites. Silo Sword subscriber. That's a mouthful.
That's
Silo
a
Sword
mouthful.
subscriber interrogatives. Say that 3 times. Everyone on the count of 3, say it 3 times fast. 1, 2, 3.
Silo Sword
Silo Sword interrogatives. Yeah, that's really hard. I couldn't even finish it. Oh, wait, sounds good. Not going to happen. Not finishing it.
No,
If you're at home, I want you to try it right now. 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, man, you guys fucked up bad. I heard it. But we're not here to talk about Silo Sword subscriber interrogatives today because this is a side quest. So we're just going to have a short, and by that I mean usually it's like 20 to 40 minutes, conversation about BioShock 2, our backlog accomplishment with Respawn and Friends game, where we go back and play games that we should have played long ago, games that we feel guilty about, classic games, or games that we just want the other people to play.
I'm also just very excited to hear Ryan's opinion, because Ryan just told us earlier he's never played BioShock 1. And I think people who have played both, well, that's interesting. That's a very interesting perspective to have.
Yeah, we'll see.
So I want to give some context.
I'm curious. Yeah.
I've gathered some facts about BioShock 2. It was released February 9th, 2010. This was 3 years after the original BioShock. It was not developed by the original studio. The original studio was 2K Boston, formerly Irrational Games. You might know Irrational from Ken Levine. This one was developed by 2K Marin. Some of the original crew did actually end up moving over to help work on it. But this was surprising to me based on what I perceived as the general consensus for BioShock 2, which was that it was kind of like that one's not as good. If you're going to play the trilogy and you want to skip one, that's the one to skip. That's what I believed to be the general consensus. I don't know if you guys felt that way going into it.
I had heard it's BioShock 1.5.
This surprised me to see that it has an 88% on Metacritic.
Yeah.
It has a 9.1 from IGN. It has 100 on Games Radar. And everywhere, pretty much, is saying that it is improving on every aspect of gameplay, story, and everything from BioShock 1, which is pretty cool. But there are definitely some criticisms we can talk about. One quote I wanted to read was deleted from my notes, so we're not going to read it anymore. But I also wanted to mention that...
confidential information.
Yeah. I think part of what was... part of what was viewed maybe negatively about this game was the multiplayer. This was at peak time when everything was getting multiplayer shoehorned into it, from Uncharted to Last of Us to BioShock to everything that shouldn't have had multiplayer suddenly now had multiplayer. But that's just a little setup of context I wanted to give. Ryan's never played BioShock. This was his first time playing through both of these. I've played all the BioShocks, but this was my first time playing Minerva's Den. Holden, you've played BioShock 1, but not 2 or Minerva's Den. So we have 3 kind of different areas that we're coming from. Mm-hmm. I want to hear Ryan's perspective first. Like a top-level overview, what did you think of BioShock 2?
Okay, so I really had no idea what I was getting into. I heard great things about the game in general. I was expecting this to be a scary game. And so I played for the first 2 hours the first night I played it, and I was waiting for that first jump scare, and it just never came. And I'm sitting there going, okay, it's got these creepy little girls that I knew about. You've seen the little memes of them and everything. And I'm like, hey, where's the jump scare? And I'm sitting there going, man, I'm 2 hours into this thing. It's got to be coming. stopped playing and I sat there for a minute and I'm like, okay, I need to reassess this game entirely. And so then I kind of found out that it's more just, it's that story-driven shooter where it's just there's something constantly going on. There's no real cutscenes, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, it was. I enjoyed it, and I was expecting more of it, though.
When you say expecting more, what kind of more content, more story, more
depth in the story? It was very predictable. Mm-hmm. Now that was kind of disappointing in the end.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah,
gotcha.
And the controls.
Holden, what was your kind of?
Yeah, I kind of agree with the story aspect. BioShock 1 had a lot of interesting kind of turns throughout the story. There's that famous "Would you kindly" twist, and this just kind of felt the same throughout. Like, oh, the character motivations, people who are saying they might not be, their intentions might not be what you think they are. And there's kind of hints that maybe that's the case. And I kind of found at the end, oh no, it kind of just seems like everyone's intentions were exactly what they seemed like at the very beginning of the game.
Yeah.
Which is fine for most games, but for a BioShock game, I expected more. I expected those kind of twists and turns of the story. Ultimately, the first level matters in the story. The last level matters in the story, and then every other level is just kind of cool context and cool things you're experiencing, but not necessarily contributing to a greater narrative. They're just kind of individual moments in the game, I kind of feel.
Right.
Yeah.
So the game is split up and told differently from the other games, whereas this one is very, very linear. You go from one section to another. There's no going back, and each section that you visit, you have a particular character, non-splicer character, that you are kind of figuring out their motivations, why they may want to do you harm, and then at the end of that level, you decide, oh, by the way, yeah, obviously full spoilers for all of this stuff. You may want to make them pay for what they've done, and you can kill them, or you can choose to spare them and possibly get some kind of gift or change the ending of the game a little bit. Versus BioShock 1, which was all splicers almost. The only human interaction really you get is through the radio, and it is kind of almost like an open world of Rapture, where you can go back and visit anything at any time. You can't do anything pretty much in any order, but there is the Metroidvania aspect of like, oh, there's a frozen door. I'm going to come back a lot later whenever I have fire to melt that ice. So I feel like in that, there was a lot of missed opportunity with story. I do feel like that it wasn't a bad story, but it was just kind of average.
Yeah.
And it's hard to recreate that would you kindly. Like everyone, you're right. You go into it expecting the narrative from BioShock having such a strong twist and a cool premise. And then you're just like, all right, when's the twist coming? When's the twist coming?
And then credits
Which is what
roll.
we'll get into a little bit later. Yeah, and then credits roll. So we'll get into that a little bit more when we talk about Minerva's Den. But I feel like, aside from story, every single thing about this game was an improvement over the original. I feel like,
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
The combat especially.
Combat was so much more fluid with the ability. In BioShock 1, you only have either your plasmid out or a weapon, and you have to switch between the two. Versus BioShock 2, where you actually have both out at any given time. So I think that made for a lot of really easy opportunities for combos, like freezing and shattering an enemy, or electrifying
I would
and headshotting.
spam electric. I would electrify Big Daddies while I was reloading. That saved me so many times.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. I also feel like the added gameplay element of gathering added almost like a tower defense type thing to protecting your little sister.
Yes.
Thinking ahead of time, you're like, all right, I can see all of the different openings to this room. I'm going to set traps. I'm going to position myself.
I just put a mini turret right next to the little sister every time.
Mini turrets. I do the trap rivets. I would do the proximity mines. So yeah, I think every single aspect. The plasmids were cooler. The fact that you could upgrade lightning to have chain lightning, or the ability to just spray a continuous freeze, or with Minerva's Den having gravity well, I think that was pretty dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, gravity well was pretty awesome.
Did the first one have like environmental effects? Like when you if any enemy was sitting in a pool of water and you electrocuted them, it spread to everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought that was awesome. That was one of the big things that I really enjoyed about the game is actually seeing where you were and what you could use to your advantage.
Absolutely. You see puddles of oil on the ground, and you're like, "Oh, I could light that on fire." And
I think they took it a step further in Minerva's Den, or maybe I shouldn't find this in the main game at all. But there was what are they? Not the plasmids, but the
tonics.
Tonics, right? The tonic where you could, when you're underneath water falling on you, it'll recharge your health and
I saw that.
There was that one in
Eve.
the main game too.
Okay, I missed it.
Standing in water, yeah, you recharge.
As you're standing, yeah. I
that
missed
was
it.
if you took
if
enough
Minerva's
photos.
Den, that was great to have.
Yeah, that was if you took enough photos. It was a Fountain of Youth. It was the end of one of the video challenge.
Is that the,
So
is that the recorder?
of a particular enemy.
The little like research thing?
Yeah, the camera. So
Okay.
you start the camera, you research, and then if you research one of the enemies enough, you get Fountain of
Okay,
Youth.
never used that thing.
Was Fountain of Youth in? I never used the recorder either. Like never. I'm like, I mean, I'm too busy in combat. I'm not going to take a picture right now. Are you kidding me?
You just always have the camera ready to go, and as soon as you see an enemy, boom, hit it, and it will switch automatically to your weapon. So you're just like getting the bonuses.
Was the Fountain of Youth in the original game at all?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so either. Okay. Because I liked that. That was a nice addition. I found it in Minerva's Den. I'm like, where was this? I could have used this when I had no health packs, or no Evo, or no Eve. I keep calling it Evo.
That's wrong. You called it
is
wrong.
I called it wrong. I did it bad.
So I want to talk about the difficulty of the game. What difficulty did you guys play on, and did you find it challenging enough? Because I played on normal, and I felt like it was way too easy. I was constantly full of, I don't want to brag, but I was constantly full on health kits all the time. I was just like healing a tiny bit of health just so I could pick up whatever health kit I found on the ground. And I was always had a full thing of Eve.
No, I was dead.
But it looks like that was
I
not
was
that
dead
easy,
a
you
lot.
know?
Yeah, and I don't know if it's I'm used to faster paced first person shooters, to where I can maneuver myself. And when you're a big daddy, clumbering around, I couldn't move. I couldn't maneuver myself, and so I'd get into tight situations where I would just be dead. And especially when the big sisters came, terrifying.
Oh my god,
terrifying. So yeah, no.
Every time I fought a big sister, I'm like, this is so hard to beat a big sister without dying. There must be a trophy for doing it without dying because it's that hard. And then, but towards the beginning of the game, I was having a harder time because I wasn't using my plasmids and weapons in cahoots enough. And I found that the more I used them together, the better I did. And then I was ending up in situations where I had 5 health packs and 5 Eve cartridges, and I had tons of ammo, and I would do better the more I use my plasmids strategically.
Yeah.
But then sometimes you just kind of get into that, I'm playing a first person shooter, so I'm just going to shoot everything. And I just kind of, to my own fault, no fault of the game, I would just not use the plasmids for some reason.
Yeah, well,
that is exactly the thing about this game. It is not a first-person shooter. If you treat this game like a first-person shooter, you will die a lot.
Yeah, especially when you don't know how to aim down sights. I don't know if you guys knew that, but the right analog. I play on a console, and I don't know what you guys are played on. I played on Xbox, but the right joystick down was scope, and I didn't find that out until maybe my 5th hour into the game.
Yeah. I used one of my most used weapons was the the spear gun.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
and
really?
You can
I use that almost never.
all the time. No. It's the best, dude. What you do? You electrocute someone and then headshot them with that. Instant kill immediately.
Can I tell you what I did?
Yeah.
I was going like the electrocute with one hand, and then I would just like shoot him in the head with whatever gun I had, or like machine gun him to death. But about halfway through the game, I discovered the freeze them.
Yeah.
And then I found out how much I love the drill. Because you freeze them and then drill dash, where you hold down the drill button and then press the circle and you jump across the level. And almost every type of enemy, even a brute, by the end of the game, I was killing a brute slicer in one drill dash. From freeze, boom, dead in one hit.
Really?
Wow. Yeah.
Interesting.
And not only that, but the drill dash was just so satisfying. Like, I legit am ranking it up there with like the web swinging from Spider-Man and the axe from God of War. Like, drill dashing into someone and just shattering them in one hit is so satisfying.
It was theatrical.
So for the last half of the game, that became my go-to tool. In fact, I even started using the tonic that limits you only to the drill, but your plasmids cost a lot less. Mm-hmm. It was awesome.
I used the spear, and that got me to where I wasn't needing to use much ammo anymore. That's why I had so much ammo, is because the spear, you can reuse the spears. You have to recollect them again. So sometimes if you miss, you have to go find it in the wall or something like that. But you can just never have to replenish the spears again or buy any more spears because you just recollect them again.
Yep.
And once I figured that out in the last like 2 missions, it just became a lot easier. But I never used the drill dash. Not once. I barely used the drill.
Well, you had to use it once for the story progression, but after that,
outside of that, and then I'm like, oh wait, how to do it again? I don't remember. It doesn't matter. I'm going to just continue doing my own thing.
God, it was so
I didn't experiment
satisfying.
enough.
No. The gun that I used the most was at the end was the shotgun. You get it fully maxed out, and it becomes a Tesla. And so I never had to use my electric plasmid. I switched it over, and I was using other things that I hadn't been using the entire game. And I had all this atom, and I was like, well, I guess I can upgrade different things now that I don't have to use the shock one. And that was really satisfying, especially you get the solid slug, and you shoot something straight in the head, and it's just down. It didn't matter what it was. You got close enough. Solid slug, gone.
Well, I remember using the solid slug shots against a Big Daddy, being like, how much damage did that just do against him? They're powerful.
Yes.
Did you guys, what was your take on the Little Sisters? Did you do the mini games with like having to gather Adam from the bodies? Did you sacrifice?
Yes.
Did you
I did at least half of them in each level.
Yeah, me too. And this is the question I have to ask you, gentlemen. Did you rescue or harvest them?
Oh, rescue.
You monster. So let me give you a little bit of backstory. I have a daughter who is 1.5 years, and the first time when it was like rescue or harvest, I was like, there's an option for that? No. So I had to rescue him. So my opinion of you, Chad, has forever changed.
There's a different ending.
No, I did not harvest any of them.
You almost said
I did not
the way you worded that. I thought you were about to say you harvested at least one of them.
He did. He does his backtracking now. He did harvest all of them.
No, I didn't harvest any of them.
Smiling and laughing and enjoying every moment of it.
The story, if you harvest them, you are like literally ripping them open, grabbing the atom slug from their bellies and devouring it.
Okay,
you're not just
didn't know that. Never saw it.
You're ripping them to pieces.
I'm glad I never did that. I would be scarred. I would have stopped playing.
I've literally never actually harvested one, but that's like the lore of how you like if you were to harvest them, that's what happens. I don't know if they show it or not, but
that was the jump scare, Ryan. That
is definitely the jump
devouring
scare.
a little girl.
Oh no!
So I went into the game just like I've got the platinum trophy in BioShock 1, which included play the game without using Vita Chambers.
Which is why you're so good at it and didn't think this game was hard, by the way.
I think that's what it is, because I played it on the hardest difficulty without using Vita Chambers on BioShock 1, and then I got to this. Course. But I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll just do normal difficulty, but also don't use Vita Chambers. And then I was like, but let me also take a look at that trophy list. So I saved all the little girls, and I spared all of the NPCs because of the trophy. But now my only trophy left is just playing on the hardest difficulty. So I'm definitely going to rerun through that. I'm a trophy whore.
So now
I admit.
You're talking about the NPCs that you had to save and killed.
Yeah.
I'm curious. So what did you guys do for all 3 of them? So
I saved them all for the trophy.
So I saved them all.
So would you now the last guy? What is considered saving though?
That's what's tricky. The game considers not killing him as saving.
Okay.
Even though he, in his lucid mind, is saying, "Don't let me be this monster. Please put me out of my misery." I feel like ethically that would be the save option.
And that's what I did. I electrocuted him, and I was leaving that area, and I could hear him talking, and I was like, "Oh wait, there's still something going on here." So I turned back around.
There's an audio diary you can find near there that says it's the actual guy Gil saying, "Whatever I say, don't do it. Don't kill me. I'll beg and I'll plead. Don't do it." So they tell you, but you have to have found that audio diary. I
thought the audio diaries were interesting too, because they told a big story, and if you missed one, you missed something of the story.
Yes, and I felt like I missed a lot of them.
Me too.
Before I missed a lot of the story.
I got the trophy for that. There are 125 audio logs, and I got 110 of them. So I got all the crazy story.
Oh,
it was so good. This legit is like, I liked the games before, but playing them again for BARF this is one of my top 5 favorite gaming franchises of all time. Easy. Much better than Zelda. God damn it.
I'm glad I didn't play that one with you guys.
I will say that in this game, though, even though everything in the gameplay outclassed BioShock 1, because the story was so much better in BioShock 1, I still have warmer feelings about BioShock 1 than 2, even though the gameplay is better in every respect.
Yeah.
And going back and thinking about it, it's like, oh, hacking, so much better in BioShock 2.
Right? Oh
so
my
much
gosh.
better.
The pipe
in BioShock
game was
1,
fun
Ryan,
for a little bit.
You had a tube that you had to connect the little tubes together to make it match to the end of this grid while water was filling inside the tube. And if you missed it, then you had to start over again. It was stupid. It was horrible. This is way better. You can do it on the fly. The little color, matching the color to the needle moving back and forth. That was great. I hacked everything. I loved hacking.
I did
hacked
too.
every single health area I could find.
And I did the same thing. Only problem is when I was trying to hack a health thing and I just missed it barely and I got in the red and all of a sudden the drones start coming at me and I'm like, no, I need to hack this because I need to heal myself. And then I die and it's like, you kidding me? Really? And you're like, ah.
If you hack it really quickly before the drones get to you, they'll just leave.
And I found that out, but I just still missed it by a little bit. And the the rocket ones come and you're dead.
Oh, yeah.
You hack it. You call in the drones, and then you use your hack tool to hack the drones. Yeah. Boom, now you have allies.
Yeah.
Oh, no, even better than that. You just use a security command plasmid and just throw it at enemies, so they just start going towards the enemies instead.
That's a good idea.
Never used that plasmid.
Yeah. It's a good plasmid. It's really
I got it, and I was like, not interested. No. In fact, I think, what were the plasmids you guys use most? We've talked about electricity a lot. I did the ice one a lot. Was it
Hypnotize.
Hypnotize. I remember using that a lot in BioShock 1.
I use it on Big Daddies. So if there's an enemy room full of splicers, I'll use it on the Big Daddy. That way the Big Daddy's attacking everybody. He'll clear them out, but then the splicers will also do damage to the Big Daddy, so I don't have to worry as much about the Big Daddy when I finally have to fight him, and I'm fighting him alone at this point because he's killed everybody. That's so it works very well if you get hypnotized.
Yeah, I used the electric shock and the fire, and that's really it. I didn't see utility much for the ones I upgraded. I spent all my atom on upgrading those two, so they were maxed out pretty quick, and I just stuck with them.
Yeah.
One thing I did end up using towards the end was decoy.
I was just going to say, decoy seemed the most useless. I was literally just about to say that, so I'm curious, how did you use it?
So decoy, at first, you just put out another target, and the enemies attack that instead of attacking you. But as you upgrade it, step 2 is it reflects damage back at them. Step 3 it reflects damage back at them while also healing you at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So the last big battle with all of the brute splicers and alphas coming in, I just throw out a decoy, and I'm just constantly getting healed as they attack it, and then I freeze them, drill dash, freeze them, drill dash. Decoy goes away, throw another one out there.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting. I might have not died as much if I would have used a different tactic.
I'm just saying, I literally died 0 times. So I'm kind of a big deal. So weapons, hold and use spear almost all the time. I used pretty much the drill for the last half of the game, but then before that I did the machine gun. I didn't find the grenade launcher useful at all. I didn't feel like it was powerful.
No. I only used it at the point where you had the 2 big sisters, and I just spammed the rocket launcher on them, or a grenade launcher at them.
Yeah.
The one thing I did, the drill took almost all of my fuel. That's another thing I liked about the drill too, is that you could buy fuel anywhere. But it used almost all of my fuel for a big sister, so I would have to. A lot of times I use armor piercing ammo on the machine gun for them instead, or heavy rivets.
Heavy rivets were fun. I liked the rivet gun.
Yeah.
God, I just felt so proud. Going into the beginning of the game, I even think maybe, Holden, you and I talked about this, and you're like, I just don't feel powerful yet as a big daddy.
Yeah.
And I was like, by the end of the game, I was like, fuck yeah, I do. Boom, you're dead. Boom, you're dead. Boom, you're dead.
I started shooting stealthily, so I never really felt the power because I was being more stealthy, and I still felt terrified all the time. You felt strong because you played on hard difficulty BioShock 1 without using lighted chambers. I never felt strong.
Easy.
But I felt stronger.
I think transitioning now to a little bit of the gameplay and story part. I think one of my favorite things from this game was the moment where you get to actually play as a little sister and you see the world as they see it. And I think it's so cool to be able to see that they're brainwashed, and where you see a dead body laying on the ground, a pool of blood, she sees, oh, an angel. And you actually literally see that she's seeing an angel.
Yeah.
And that she's brainwashed to see everything as curtains and pillows and couches and everyone's having a great time. And that's why she's like going through this, and she's not scared, and she's not stabbing this thing and taking the atom from it. She's, oh, there's an angel, and I'm going to take its atom, Daddy. I thought that was really dope to be able to see that from her point of view.
Yeah, no, that was interesting, especially the colors. I don't know if I'm big on seeing colors in games, and they mean a lot of things, but it was all gold. And two, it was a golden hue, and the curtains were red. Yep. So you're just like, you just kind of got this very like elegant feel to it almost. And it's like you said, it's just a brainwash. Like they had no idea. And then when you were starting to suck the atom out is when it shifted and you could see the real world. Or when you were was it that, or when you were picking up the pieces for the big sister?
The big sister.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And you could see what you were actually like and you're like, oh, that's not what. Okay, like there's a dead body just chilling right there in a laundry hamper.
Yep. This game, again, just like BioShock 1, was brilliant with especially if you listen to the audio logs, but brilliant with the environmental storytelling. There are so many things like you could see the bodies of all of the alphas who had committed suicide because they'd been separated from their little sisters, and they drove themselves crazy and just finally just killed themselves to end it. You could see them just littering the ground in the cells downstairs. One of my favorite things was also one of the audio logs from Gil, I believe it was talking about how they tasked him to figure out how to make the little sisters not feel pain. And so they developed this pain inhibitor, but when they gave it to him, the little sisters started chewing their tongues off out of ignorance, because it was like,
didn't get that
this
one.
is a cool chewy thing. But like the shit that they went through to these little orphan girls to turn them into little sisters. But one of my favorite pieces of environmental storytelling doesn't have anything to do with an audio diary or anything. It's just something you come across in, I forget which level it was. But there's a room with a guy in it, and he's behind a locked door. And you're in a room just on the other side of him. It's a small room with a window looking in on him. And there's a button. And if you push the button, he gets electrocuted. And if you push it again, he gets electrocuted. And you push it a third time, and he dies. I was like, oh, fuck. I kind of feel bad. And then you go into his room, and you see that he also had a button, and that he had killed the guy on the other side of the glass. So he was already a douchebag. And you're like, oh, now I don't feel so bad about killing him because he fucking murdered the guy who was standing in the room that I was standing in. So it's like they were running those types of experiments on people, and like...
But you never died in the game once, so you should feel like an asshole.
Yeah. That's right.
Right. You never
didn't die once.
No karma.
Did you guys
I saved a ton though.
Did you guys find the cats, dead cats laying around?
Yes, Schrodinger's cat.
Schrodinger's cat.
I thought that was so funny.
Yes, I loved that. Oh, it was awesome.
I missed that completely.
I found more.
Where was this?
That one was when you first get your the firepower plasmid, and you burn something, and there was a bunch of like rivets and stuff, and then behind it there was a cat, and if you just looked at it, it said Schrodinger. And so all the cats were named, and I found like 3 of them. And I don't remember what the other 2's names were, because Schrodinger's cat was the one that just always was the first one that it came to my mind, and I thought that was awesome.
Yep. As long as it was in that pile of ice, it could have been dead, could have been alive. You don't know. But as soon as you melt it, well, fuck. Now we know it's dead.
Yeah. Well, you don't know. It was standing up, so it could have been alive. It just didn't move.
I don't know. I hit it a lot with my drill, and it didn't move. So.
Okay. There's a lot of enemies. I killed them. They still remain standing up. So, it might just be a thing in Rapture that just happens.
Yeah.
So I want to talk next about Minerva's Den. This was my real reason why I chose this, because I had played BioShock 2, but I hadn't played Minerva's Den. Minerva's Den is a piece of DLC. It's like 4-ish hours long, depending on how fast or slow you go through it.
It was like 2.5 for me, but I also have a story there.
Yeah.
I replayed some of it again.
This is a piece of DLC that is often called one of the best pieces of DLC of all time. There are multiple, there's a Kotaku article called The 10 Best Game Expansions. This is on it. There's a Game Rant article called Best Video Game DLC. This is on it. There's a video from Kotaku that says 6 years later, Minerva's Den remains the best BioShock thing. There are all sorts of things about this piece of DLC that is like, this is what DLC should be. This is the pinnacle of DLC. My favorite thing about it, and why I think that I do agree with all of those things, is that it takes everything about BioShock, from waking up with no powers to the end of it being super powerful and having a great story and a twist even at the end of it.
Yes.
And it condenses it into this micro experience where you are constantly progressing at a really fast clip, gaining items, gaining weapons, solving puzzles really quickly, and then it's one really fast, condensed, complete package. And it was so good. There was no wasted time.
No.
And it told a nice personal story that was, after the big scale of the last two games, it's nice to see like this one small condensed story of CM Porter and him trying to get his wife, trying to recreate his wife with artificial intelligence. And then doesn't surprise me that this piece of DLC was made by Fulbright Games, which is Steve Gaynor's studio, who made Gone Home. So it kind of makes sense why this has a little bit better storytelling than we saw in BioShock 2, in my personal opinion.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
The story has definitely better.
Yes.
I also cared about the characters a lot more.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, we care about the characters, and I think that was what really shined through this one. So Holden, you said you had a story behind this one.
Yeah, so I just wanted to just point this out, that I had two significant crashes during the game, Minerva's Den specifically, and they just really irritated me. It's a 3-hour experience. I finished it about 2.5 hours, but that's just because I played the first hour twice. When I finished the first hour, it crashed and found out there's no autosave at all. So I had to replay everything all over again, which was really obnoxious. And I actually disagree with a good part of it. That you're claiming the good part of it is that it's condensing everything. I actually hated that it condensed everything.
Really?
Because I just played BioShock 2. If you were going to have this like really quick experience and give me new abilities really fast, it's not exciting if they're abilities I already had. Gravity Well was great because it's really the only thing that I did not get in BioShock 2. It felt like, cool, so you just played BioShock 2, we're taking all that stuff away from you, and don't worry, you'll get it all back again. It's like, but I just played the whole game to get all that stuff. It's different when it's like Metroid Prime 2, take all your stuff away, because I didn't just play Metroid Prime 1 to continue on Prime 2. They're separate games, separate experiences. Yeah. This is an expansion of BioShock 2, and it doesn't feel like an expansion, it just feels like an abridged version with a better story. So it's like, it outclasses BioShock 2 in storytelling, and then because the gameplay's the same, yeah, of course it's a great DLC pack, because the gameplay's the same, has the same powers, and its story's better. I don't know, like, it didn't stick out to me as much as I was expecting. It was great.
Yeah.
I have no qualms with it. Like, it's still, minus the crashing, that was a big deal. It happened twice. But I was literally saving after every single battle, because I'm like, I will finish this. I'm going to get through this. I'm not going to have to replay anything again. But yeah, it was too much of the same for me to really enjoy it. And especially Gravity Well comes in the first hour, and then the remaining 2/3 of it is identical to what I just played in BioShock 2, just again with a better story.
Yeah.
I think to put some things in perspective, this did come out several months after BioShock 2 did originally. So you would have had a lot of downtime between the two. Like, oh, this is great to revisit. But I think you're right. Yeah. When I was playing this, I kind of came away thinking, I can't think of another way right now to say this, but I don't want it to be as pejorative as it's going to sound. Like the mobile version of BioShock 2, where it's not the full game.
You're right.
Experience.
That didn't sound bad at all.
I know,
that
sounds really terrible. But what I mean is that it is like, how do we take BioShock 2, this big, epic 12 to 15 hour experience, and how do we streamline it to make something that is so like uniquely BioShock, but in a small package that you can take on the go on your phone. But anyway, that's what I felt this was. It was
I mean, BioShock was BioShock on the phone. Remember that?
You're right, and that was a terrible port.
They took it off. They removed it.
Yep. Ryan, what are your thoughts on Minerva's Den?
So I'm an engineer. That's what I do for a living. And so when the first part I was like, oh, the Thinker, it's this supercomputer. I'm like, oh, I'm all in. And I even went to work the next day and I told my coworker, I'm like, dude, if you haven't played Minerva's Den, you need to play it because this is like our thing. It's in the super intelligence, supercomputer. It's just, I was like, just from that, I was already all in. And I'm going through the story, and this one I found a lot of the audio logs. Actually, I explored a little bit more in Minerva's Den than I did in the real game, and so I found more of those audio logs, and I got more of that backstory. And I don't know if you guys were expecting it, but I was not expecting the twist of when you finish it.
I was not.
You put the encoder in, and it pulls up, and it's like, oh, here, Big Daddy Sigma, alternate identity, CM Porter, and you're like, wait, no. And I remember just sitting back in my chair, just like, wow. I was like, that was well done. Because and then you're like, and then if you listen to the audio logs, you realize how it was done is that he was trying to get the thinker to be like Pearl, and who was his wife, which I guessed was dead. But you learn that at the very, very end. But I was like, and so the computer, instead of using Pearl, it was using Porter, like it was using him, and it was replicating. I was like, wow, that was well played.
Yeah. This is where I think it also comes back, and people are like, oh, it had a better story than BioShock 2 because it does have that great twist at the end.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted from the BioShock 2 story. So it's like, oh, the DLC did the story better. A combination of Minerva's Den being a full... If Minerva's Den was a full game, it would have been the perfect BioShock game, thus far at least, of the two that I've played.
I think it comes down... I think you're right. It comes down to the characters. You care about the characters.
Yep.
And they're really interesting. I just like... Gil Alexander and Grace, what's her name, and Stanley Gill, or whatever his name was. I didn't
Stanley
care.
Poole. Yeah.
So that's it, Stanley Poole. Like I didn't give two shits about him.
No.
But if you think back to BioShock 1 and you think of Andrew Ryan and you think of Fontaine and you think of Sander Cohen, who takes all of these people and turns them into art and fucking like. Those are the types of things that you remember about these games, are the characters and how unique and fucked up they are.
Yeah.
But I think that's what was missing from BioShock 2.
I also think just the idea of the thinker in general, I guess, who was the guy's name? The engineer that took over the project away from Wall. Yeah. Wall, I think, would have been a much more interesting long-term antagonist than Sophia Lamb was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sophia Lamb just was vague person that I'm supposed to not like. Whereas Wall had a dynamic with what was his name? CM Porter?
Mm-hmm.
Porter, yeah. Had a relationship with CM Porter that was interesting, and there was a dynamic there, and they were talking about each other. And I didn't really get that with Sophia Lamb. I just kind of felt like people were talking about her, not because they had relations with her, but just because, well, she's a big person in the game. People have to have an opinion about her. There's no personal connection. Or if there's a personal connection with the characters of Minerva's Den.
Yeah.
And it was also dragged off across 3 chapters, whereas in BioShock 2, it's like each Stanley Poole is one chapter of that game.
Yeah.
And that's kind of all you really get of him.
Yeah. And I still don't know why I didn't like Stanley Poole. It came down to that where she opened the gate and it's like, you can kill him or not. And I'm like, I don't even know what you did. Like, I don't know who you are. So I like looking back and when I kind of like was reading about the games to see if I miss anything important. And I was like, oh, so he was the guy who turned Eleanor into a little sister, basically, who sent her off to the orphanage. I was like, okay, I should have killed him, but I didn't.
That reminds me of Chad was talking about environmental storytelling. I think my favorite moment of environmental storytelling in both games is at the very end of Minerva's Den. You've dealt with the final confrontation. The twist happens. You realize you're CM Porter, and you're walking out to get to the surface. And there's a room where there's pictures of your wife, and there's a letter from Winston Churchill that says, "I'm so sorry I heard about your wife." And that was a really cool,
I didn't see that.
That was a really cool moment.
I didn't see the letter from Winston Churchill.
It was very subtle.
One of the there were like subtle, articles on the wall.
Yeah, where all the pictures, and then the last picture was the picture of the tombstone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I totally missed the letter.
The thing on the left was a thing from Winston Churchill.
Dang it, that would have been kind of well. I have to go back and just like reload my last save and go look at it.
I love that last part too because they prep you for that and the emotional impact of that because they take your guns and your HUD away.
Yep.
And it's just like, nope, you're going to walk the rest of this game and you're going to take in what just happened and who you are.
They gone homed it.
Yep. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. And then the
Speaking of a game, you thought it was
going
to be a horror game.
Yes. Yeah, totally. After the game, after 2 hours when nothing jumped out and scared me. Although granted, the Big Sisters, when the whole screen shakes, I was kind of terrified at those times. But I mean, I was never a jump scare.
I think that's a good comparison though, because I think BioShock, at least the two I've played, have learned a lot from survival horror games in terms of giving you resources and inventory, and just like feeling like you don't have enough ammo. I never felt like I had enough ammo, and it always felt like I had to struggle and conserve. Not to an extent of like Resident Evil 2, but like definitely more so than most first-person shooters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's kind of like an anxiety that builds in you, not necessarily horror, but more of an anxiety.
But I think it made it where you ran out of ammo in your rivet gun. So, hey, use one of the other weapon wheels that you had. You had a full wheel of weapons.
Exactly.
So just use something else.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like you were just kind of down and out, down that, switch over to melee and you just had to beat people on top of your head with your rivet gun. No, you could switch to the spear gun.
That happened
or the
to me
shotgun.
a few times.
Well, I did too. That's just instinct for me when I'm playing a first person shooters. You run out of ammo, you don't reload or you don't switch weapons, you just start bashing. So I'm sitting there trying to bash a big daddy, and I'm like, why am I doing this? So that was a death.
Speaking of big daddies, there were a lot of times when I would cheese the ones with rockets and just telekinesis. Just grab the rocket, throw it back. Wait.
I always forgot about telekinesis. Always forgot about it.
Now, I did notice though the
so
spider slicers. If you telekinesis their little hooks and threw it back at them, that was like an instant kill, almost.
Really?
Yes, and I didn't find that out
man,
until
those
Minerva's
things
Den.
drove me nuts.
I know. It wasn't until Minerva's Den that I found out that you could, because that was the only plasmid you had was telekinesis at the very beginning, and you fight a few of them, and I grabbed one and I just threw it back, and I was like, oh, he died? Cool.
This is making me realize the game is better than I thought it was. I didn't even realize so many of these small things throughout the whole conversation.
There was like, I remember playing our discussion during the first BioShock, and you were like, man, everything was so hard towards the end, and I felt like everything had so much health, and I was like, did you use the camera to get increased damage? You're like, no, I never used the camera once. It's like, what? And it sounds like you didn't do it again, though. But yeah,
because so it's stupid. Like that's a stupid mechanic.
Yes, it was.
Oh, this big daddy's running towards you. Quick, take a picture.
But you had to let it like load up too. Like it had it constantly. And if you did damage, it helped the progression of the research, which I found out later.
Yeah.
But when it's a little splicer that I headshotted with my rivet gun from far range, and it's like, oh, you got a C on this one. It didn't give me any experience on it. I was like, this is pointless.
It changes if you kill it the same way every time, you get less and less points.
Yeah. Well, I headshot
so if you
everything.
Change up the way you kill it.
What am I
just
supposed
so
to
good.
do? Shoot its arm? Like
arm shot.
Or melee it. Or destroy it with a plasmid. Or
okay. I guess that makes a little bit more sense, but yeah, no.
Yeah, exactly. No.
Well, that's why I never died, and you guys had all the fucking time.
Because you're just too good, Chad.
So overall, BioShock 2 sounds like we enjoyed our time with it.
I would not recommend it.
No. You're a lying whore.
I honestly, I don't think I told my coworker, because he played Infinite, and I told him, I said, if you can find a cheap copy of BioShock 2, which is actually what I did, which is actually another point that I want to make. I played the 360 version, so I did not play the remastered, and I loved it because it gave me that nostalgic, like 50s, film type look. And looking at it, I watched videos of the remastered of and I was like, I'm so glad that I went and when it was a cheapskate for a day and bought a $5 copy and, paid the $10 for Minerva's Den. And I told him, I was like, if you can spend $15 on a game and just play Minerva's Den, which will take like 4 hours, I said, I would do it. And he's like, all right, I might do it then. I was like, there we go. I was like, don't play the game, just play Minerva's Den and you'll be happy.
Well, a spoiler alert, later this year, we're going to be playing BioShock Infinite just because we have to finish out the trilogy. But I miss Rapture already.
I think you might want to wait on that, actually, Chad.
Why?
They're going to release a BioShock game again at some point. Come on.
But I want to play this now. See, the thing is, I want to play Infinite because I never played the Burial at Sea DLC, which is where you go back to Rapture and finish that story. And I'm like, I want to fucking know what that is now.
But it was a year between BioShock and BioShock 2 for me. That was great.
Was it a year?
It was a year, yeah.
I feel like we played
more than a year, actually. It's more like a year and a
ago.
half almost.
Jesus Christ.
No, more like a year and a quarter. It's like November. It was November. It was our first BARF.
Was it? No.
Yeah, it was our very first BARF.
No.
Yes, it was. It was that, and then Super Metroid, or the other way around. Oh, it was Super Metroid, then BioShock. That's what it was.
And then Earthbound. Damn it.
Yeah, so it's been a while, and I think the timing worked. It may help me appreciate BioShock 2 more. So I don't know if I want to do BioShock Infinite this year. I mean, if you lay it down, we have to play it.
Well, I mean, so we're playing Kingdom Hearts. Everyone, we're playing Kingdom Hearts for the next 2 months. This is the first time we've done this. 2 months to play Kingdom Hearts. 1, because it's longer, it's a JRPG. 2, because it might be a slog and we might not want to play it that much.
Yeah, I literally told Chad, I'm like, when we started talking today, I'm like, hey, Chad, I just bought Kingdom Hearts, and I think I regret it immediately. I haven't even started playing it yet.
So we'll see how that goes.
It was my choice this time, though, so I can't complain.
Yep.
But I'm sure as hell is going to anyway.
Oh, man. Anything you guys have left to say about BioShock before we wrap up today?
No, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Minerva's Den, excellent. So
yeah, definitely Minerva's Den is the best BioShock I've played so far.
Yeah, it's great.
Easily, yeah.
Thank you, Ryan, for joining us for this. Now everyone knows who you are. They've heard your voice, and now I will do my best to do my impression of you while I read your questions. Just kidding. I can never get my voice that low.
No, you signed up for that already. There you go.
Ryan, is there anything you would like to pimp any... that's probably a bad word to use in 2019. Yeah, like pimp out your stuff, like show people where you are. That's a bad word to use in 2019. Let's grow up and say, would you like to promote any of your social medias or places people can follow what you do?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at Silosword, which is SILOSWRD. And I actually, because of you guys, and others, some guests on your podcast as well. I've been trying to start my own podcast, and I've come up with a name. I've got all the logistics, so you can actually find me also on Twitter at When Gaming. And I'm kind of still looking for a co-host. I don't really want to do it solo, but I'm going to start doing it solo until I can find somebody who wants to join me. So, just message me on either of those accounts, and I'll be happy to talk.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Is it When Gaming, WHEN Gaming?
Yep. So the whole premise is I'll actually be streaming the podcast while I'm playing something with somebody, and we'll be talking, when gaming, when we play games, we talk games. So
that's awesome.
There you go.
I'm going to follow that right now, and you should too. All right, everybody. We will see you back next Tuesday on our regular show. Have a great Lunar New Year last week.
All right.